Okay, we should be live. This is Derek. Got Sid here, and we're going to do commentary on a playoff game for the season 5 of the season's league. Um, so in this game, we have Montu, Mike Chike, Doe Academy, and Kristen. They've started the draft, but while they're drafting, we won't be able to see the draft. But while they're drafting, we're going to jump over to the server where we keep track of the league and explain a little bit about the format. Um, so we had 16 players. Players got points for how they finished in 10 regular season games. We got 10, 6, 3, or 1 point for first, second, third, and fourth. And then the top 8 made the playoffs. Playoff points are 25% more. So you can see here what they get for each position. And the two games are broken into 1 seed, 8 seed, 4 and 5 seeds playing a game, and then 2, 3, 6, and 7 playing a game. So this is game one with these 4 players. Doe Academy, you can see their regular season points here as the 1 seed. And then out of those 8 players, the 4 with the most points at the end of their playoff game make the finals. And we do 25% more again, and then we have the champion. So um, with that, I think we were talking a little bit before we started. It looks like it's still probably possible for anyone to win. Maybe pretty tough for Kristen with 57 points. She would basically need to win both this game and the finals and have some help from other players. Um, and Doe Academy is in first, but not by so much that he still needs to do well in this game in the finals to pull it out. Let's see. The closest second is just 2.5 points behind him. So um, definitely needs to do well. Probably even get at
Yeah.
least a second place to move on.
Actually, doing some math. Whoever wins both games, if someone wins both games, which is I guess not guaranteed, they are very likely to actually win overall because even if Doe comes second in both games and say Kristen wins both games, Kristen's then at 82 and Doe still wins, but only by a little bit. He's only at 86. So
Okay.
aside from a few players, like if someone actually wins both of these games, they will probably win. Um, but it's not completely guaranteed, and also like the same person doesn't have to win both games, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but
And
it is
this
reasonably
is
open. I think that there's a good chance for even eighth seed to win this. So.
right. And this is a little bit different for anyone watching that may have played in previous seasons or watched. In the past, we just did either cut to finals or cut to a playoff and then finals, and it was final table takes it all, which
I
may
like this
still
more.
happen, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I like this more. Like it makes more sense. It means your season like performance isn't invalidated by one game. So
Right, right,
this
yep.
this setup makes a lot more sense, I think.
Yeah, seemed to work pretty well for most people. Let's see, Doe ended up getting 4 regular season wins, and that's how he went to first. The second place player also had 4 wins, so and also 2 ties for first. It looks like for Kimball, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but yeah,
Doe also has one tie actually.
oh yeah, yeah, another tie there. So
Lots of ties.
let's see the format. We just put numbers on these formats to make it easy to talk about what they are. But this is basically the original EIK, the France deck, WM deck, and then the two G4 and G5, the two-player made decks on Play Agricola. So jump back over here just to see where they're at. They're still in occupations. So
So
that's the format
Montu
we've used in the
is
finals the last 2 years.
Montu is streaming if you want me to actually look at his hand, but we can also comment without knowing anyone's hand. What do you think is
Yeah,
better?
either way, he mentioned he was streaming, but I didn't want to try to figure out how to do Twitch and
No, it would just be me looking at his hand and reporting it, and but we can just do it without knowledge, so we know everyone's stuff equally, I guess.
yeah,
That's also
that's
fun.
fine. Let's see. So in this, I mean, this is a format all these players have played a lot. Doe's made the finals in the past. So has Mike in previous years. So has Montu actually. So we have 3 former finalists. None of them have actually won a previous season though. Kristen, I think this is her first season playing. No, second season, but she's first time in the playoffs. Um, I don't know Doe well, but he's been around Play Agricola for a while, hasn't he? Maybe took a break and came back or something.
Yeah, he was here like a few years ago, and then he took a break. I don't know if he's back or if he's just playing seasons. But he's a good player. Like he's he used to stream also a while ago. I don't think he streams anymore.
Okay. Yeah, he seems strong from the two games I played against in the regular season. He's a strong player,
Mhm.
had some good combos. He won the week 10 with like a round 14 surprise mansion that no one saw to come back over the top and win. He thought he was out of it, but we all thought he was out of it. I guess what maybe we should talk about the combo potentially in G4-5, or how it's different for players who don't play on Play Agricola and don't know the cards. Like how's it different than revised maybe, or just the original EIK?
Yeah, it's not easy to describe all the changes. Roughly speaking, I would say, just a quick primer. EIK is fairly like food tight and action tight if you played basic Ricola before. So a lot of the focus tends to be on growth and figuring out good ways to feed. Um, Scoring points becomes more important as you move from draft 7 to draft 9, because a lot of players when they start playing only draft 7 out of 7 cards. Whereas when you draft 7 out of 9, it starts to become a little bit more important to set up combos and get good scoring in the end. Just because scores will naturally be higher as cards will be stronger. The I guess we're not playing with the G deck. It's just the WM and the
Oh no,
France
I'm
deck.
sorry. G is also part of it, a partial G deck.
So the G and WM deck add a few extra cards, which give you mostly just more flexibility with feeding. The WM deck in particular has a bunch of like crop support and baking support that can help a little bit. And in general, they just have good cards. Well, the G deck, after some curation, removing the broken and the really bad cards, has just pretty solid cards that provide some food support and some alternative ways to play the game. The France deck is fairly revolutionary in that it really changes how you can play the game if you draw the right setup. Where there are a lot of cards that support small family member games, like weird ways to feed, weird ways to grow, so you can grow without having to build rooms. Um,
Field
and
Doctor
so
and cards like that.
yeah, no, just I'm just talking about France deck, right? Country
Oh,
Doctor,
France. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, Country Doctor, Cowboy Mother. There's a bunch of cards there that can support that setup, but it really depends on whether you open them or not. So a given game with this setup might look very similar to EAK or it might look very different depending on what gets opened. G4 and G5 go further down this line, but there's more. In general, they're a bit stronger than the base EIK and even probably well WM in France. So the average power level of cards goes up a little bit, and you have more combo potential. But I don't think it's worth describing every single card. If you haven't seen these
Sure.
cards before, it's not like it makes sense to you. Just know
Yeah,
that the games will look a little bit different if you're used to basic Curricula, because there's going to be a lot more opportunity for like doing slightly different play from what you would see, where you can stay on two family members or stay on two rooms, but actually grow without having to build more rooms. You can farm more. You can farm earlier. You can bake more easily. There are alternative feeding plans. The miners can do very interesting things. It's a fairly different game, even though the core stays roughly the same. But the
yeah,
easiest thing to do will just be as the cards come up, we can sort of talk about them
right. Yeah,
rather than
I'll zoom in and we can cover any that we haven't seen, or any new ones people may not know.
yeah,
For this side, it's a pretty common format to add G4 and 5 to the game. It's a well established deck with
yeah.
probably thousands of plays
These
at this point.
many more. These decks have been in existence for almost a decade, I think, at this point. And so G4, G5 have probably been played like tens of thousands of times on the site now.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. So
Pain alone has probably played with these 3,000 times. So, uh,
yeah. I mean, Montu's still got to be up there. Actually, let me see if I can check that. He has some of the most played games on the site. Wonder if I can
he
see
has
that.
played a lot too. Yeah, he's been a regular player for a very long time.
Yeah,
He's at
2,400 games.
24,400.
So,
Yeah, that's a
which,
lot.
yeah, and 36% win percentage is pretty strong too. With, I mean, I
Strong.
guess it depends a lot on your opponents, but that's pretty solid.
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, we don't really have an ELO rating on the site because it would just take too much effort to implement, I think.
Hmm.
And the site also allows people to play without actually being logged in. So, although very few people actually do that, I think most people prefer to play with logged in players just to
Yeah,
know, just to have some accountability in case people quit, which is really the main reason I think.
I'm gonna
Um,
go through these while we're waiting on the draft. Mike's got 300 or 938 games, so he's approaching the 1,000 mark, right around 25% win percentage. So
well,
that's
for Mike, I know he basically only plays strong players, so that's not a terrible win rate.
sure. Yeah.
Um,
And let's see what Kristen. She might be the. Oh
so
no, actually, she's been playing
it's
for
almost as
years.
many games as Matthew does. Yeah, it's a lot of games.
Jeez, 20% is still solid. I mean, she plays all range of players pretty much anytime she can get a game. So, and then let's see. I guess that means Doe might be the at the low end as far as games played.
Yeah, he is,
21. 33% though, pretty solid.
and he really hasn't played much recently. You can tell he's basically
Yeah,
only playing seasons. It looks like he's not really playing anything else recently.
yeah, that's right.
Very well, if you're only playing seasons and you're continuously winning, that's pretty good.
Yeah, the competition is mixed. There's players of different skill levels there. We've had some of the stronger players on the site in previous seasons. This season, not as much, but Dave has played. Gray, uh, CS Junior. I mean, those are three of the probably stronger players on the site, and they've all played in one or two seasons. Even Kimball, I consider strong as well.
You have some strong players and less strong players. That's going to be true in every league. But this should be a pretty strong game. Um,
Yeah, I'll probably. I meant to ask you earlier, but if I end up uploading this to YouTube, are you cool with that?
you can upload this wherever you want. I don't mind.
Unless it's like a terrible game and not a great. Some games I kind of prefer.
It's uploading no matter how the game goes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I probably won't watch the one. I don't like listening to myself speak, but you should feel free to do whatever you want with it.
Okay. All right, they're in the minors now, so they're winding up. It should be starting soon. I have kept stats on the seat position and the win probability from each seat position, just as a um, I don't know, just to do it over the
Mm.
5 seasons. So a decent sample size now. Um, Here, I'll pull up what we're looking at so far. Um, so finishing position, lowest average
This is sort
finishing
of
position is seat two so far. This is
yeah,
230 games is what this is from.
a decent size. This is about what we've seen from Play Agricola stats in the past. C2 is generally the strongest when you don't know who's opening. Just because C2 gives you whatever action you need and you get an extra food. Often you can walk away with a free arc or a reedstone food. I mean, you're guaranteed one of them, but even if you specifically want one, you can often just get that. And there's really like even if you want occupation very badly, if free arc gets blocked, you're then only in the same position as seat one is. So it's a pretty strong position to be in. Seat one has some advantages when you know you're seat one, but when you don't know the position that you're going to be in, you generally just want to be seat two. And then seat
Exactly.
four showing seat four having
Right.
like worse statistics expected.
Yeah, and I meant to actually say that for this format, these players don't know what position they're drafting in, so you can see they're all starting at three food um, until
The
the
site
draft.
doesn't support knowing who is first player before first player actually flips. You could manually handle that if you really wanted to. You could always just like flip a coin, or not a coin, but like roll a dice or something. Decide who first player is, and then just manually put them in first position after the draft. That is something you can do, but the site won't automatically do it. It will randomly select one.
Okay.
And I mean, there's an ups and sides to both. I prefer not knowing. I think it actually makes fourth seat better if you don't know that you're fourth seat. I think because especially in the format we play in, there are a lot of miners that are quite strong to play on turn one if you know for sure you can get them. And I find that often like fourth seat will end up in a bad like second round order also if you know if first or second seed know that they can set up a good octa miner combo or reedstone food to miner combo.
Yeah,
It's not a
that's
huge
true.
difference, I think, ultimately, but I think I slightly prefer it to be
Yeah,
unknown.
I was used to knowing ahead of time, and then I think I found it does make you a stronger player not knowing because you have to be like draft more versatilely, um,
I'm also
no
not sure
matter
I'm
where you're
100%
at.
correct. There's one big advantage in knowing your fourth seed, which is that you can you can stay away from some of the potential disaster hands Especially in the format we play with, there's actually a lot of very strong cards that incentivize you to not play Ox early by providing you big bonuses if you play them as your first occupation, or if you play them as a minor without an occupation played in play.
Right.
And those can be very hard to pick from fourth seat because sometimes you're just forced into occupation, and taking two wood instead often feels terrible. Two wood's not a very good move,
Yeah.
and it can put you quite a bit behind, especially and gives first seat a big advantage when that happens. So sometimes knowing your fourth seat could be useful because you could just avoid those cards. But then again, those cards tend to be very strong, so
Yeah. I
usually
mean,
wouldn't avoid them anyways.
right, right. I mean, and I some of those cards, like I don't know that there would be first picks. Like I'm thinking about Alms Collector, maybe. Um,
There's like two that are worth first picking. Wealthiest European, which is not always worth first picking, but is a very strong card. It just gives you one resource for every round that's been complete if it's your first occupation. That one can be worth first picking. The one that's almost that I think is usually worth first picking is Imported Timber, which may not be in the set that we're playing with. So that one I think is a G6 card rather than G4, G5. So that won't show up.
yeah. I don't know. I've just found that not knowing my draft position has made me like more capable. I don't need to
It forces you to
think.
be a bit more flexible with your set positions, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
in general that's better for later seats than for earlier seats because you can usually get to put a very like polarized plan in play if you're early on in turn order, and that just benefits you more. Like imagine having educator. Like it's so much stronger to know that you're just first or second with educator. You know you can get it down, especially if you're second, because then you take it and you might even get free occupation, and then you can play an occupation immediately. That can be really strong.
yeah,
If
yeah,
it allows you to draft less defensively with educator, where you would otherwise have to take more food sources, more flexible food sources in case you don't get your like ox out in exactly on time, and you get to avoid a lot of that if you already know your second seat. So
yeah. And cards. Speaking of educator, cards that are strong in just the IK, such as educator, are just as much or even more. You know, they're still
so I
strong
would
even when
say
you add all these other sets in.
on the whole, cards that are strong are not going to suddenly become weak. I would say that certain cards are better, significantly better in EIK than they are here. Like Charcoal Burner, I think, is much better in EIK than it is with all of the stuff in the set, largely because they're just more feeding options, which means the hearts and the ovens don't get built quite as quickly, although they still do reasonably fast. So Charcoal still provides some value. But Charcoal has gone, in my estimation, from like a nailed on first pick to something that I can strongly consider passing in exchange for like better engine cards, which provide me more like long term game plan. And then stuff like Field Watchman still has very good value, but Field Watchman is maybe slightly worse depending on the set, depending on the other cards that are in play, because now there are more alternatives to Field Watchman. In EIK, there really wasn't any farming engine that was as powerful as Field Watchman. So
Right.
um, the valuations do change, but if you know that a card is strong in EIK, it's probably strong still. Educator, I would argue, is much better actually outside of EIK. Food is
Yeah,
easier,
yeah.
and Ox are stronger, so Educator just
Arcs are
got
better.
better.
Yeah. What
I would say
for
Educator is
people?
probably the best Ox in EIK now in this setting.
Yeah. Would for people that only play Revise, like they know it from VGA or playing in person, what would you say the biggest difference in like this format and
Uh,
Revise
Crops
is?
are harder. Food is harder. Plows are a little bit easier. So those are like probably and resources are generally a little bit scarcer. So Revise tends to have a lot of resource inflation, food inflation, and crop inflation. But plows tend to be very tight. So getting your farming done on time is an even bigger deal in Revise than it is necessarily in the setup. There's more sources for bonus points, so there's more ways to score without having a perfect farm. In Revised, if your farm isn't at least good in almost all counts, you're going to struggle to score really well because there are very few cards that let you go over the top in other categories. Whereas in the setting we're playing, there's a lot of like miners come with a lot of bonus points. There are occupations that provide bonus points for doing specific things. There are more forward occupations. So their forward occupations generally have global points available, so you can try to just focus on those global points and score really well. In general, there's just more alternative source for points. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say. The other big thing
Yeah.
is there's just more combos. So I revise the setting up combos can be really powerful because there aren't very many, but they tend to be quite strong when you get them. Whereas in this setup, there's a lot more potential to make weak cards stronger just because you combo them with other janky cards and they actually end up doing something really good. I wouldn't say this is like the best thing to do for beginners or anything because like it's very easy trap to make like terrible buttons that take way too much investment to set up. But there's a lot of potential to set up strong stuff because there are just a lot more combos to go around. And I would say the other big difference is if you play on BGA, you draft eight usually. draft 7 from 8, and drafting 7 from 9 is a pretty big difference. You see a lot more combo potential when you add in that extra card into the pool.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good call. I've not played enough revised to really get a feel for it yet myself. Maybe like 10 games lifetime or something.
Yeah, I mean, Agricola is still Agricola. The fundamentals don't change that much, but the economy tends to be a little bit different, and you have to analyze that a little bit differently. I would say the economy also changes more than it does in revised. Revised tends to have enough inflation of resources that you never tend to be that poor in terms like it's much harder to say would starve people in revised, even though it is possible, and it's a lot harder to food starve them, even if it is possible, than it is in the setups.
Huh.
But sometimes there's enough variability in the sets that we play that sometimes you actually have a lot of food and no one is ever hungry. Um, there's just more cards also, so there's just a much higher variance of gameplay in the
When
setup.
when you said plowing is easier in this format, is that just there's more actual plow cards, or either I guess ox that
It's
also allow for
it's a
plowing?
twofold. Yeah, I would say it's a twofold thing. One, there are just more plowouts, and I think there's also proportionally just more plowouts. But the other big deal is that people can actually score without having to farm. So there might actually be a player on the table who doesn't care anywhere near as much about plows, and that can happen in revised too. There are like if you have a clay supports in revised with like a roof baluster, or if you have trowel and like carpenter's parlor, then
Parlor,
you're just going to build a big house and you can punt on plows to some extent to score. But
huh?
usually you'll find that you want to plow because it's one of the most efficient ways to score, and that's also usually true in the setting. But I found that there are just more options to either get your plows automatically or just not care about plows in the setting.
Huh.
It's not a huge difference. I would say like plowing is still really important and you still want to prioritize it, but you can be a little bit greedier. You don't have to like pick your plows quite as aggressively in the minors, for example.
Yeah, I mean, even just EIK alone probably has more plows than revised. Although they did reprint some of them, I think, right?
No, I think revised after they added the expansion set has pretty comparable plowing support to EIK.
Huh.
It's probably a little bit tighter, but it's not really that significant. I think G4, G5 just adds so many ways to get plows done.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if like cards like Warlord were in this set, or is that G6? That's one thing I
Warlord
was
might not
trying to
be,
remember.
but Gun Collector is in this set, for example. That's a pretty big one.
Uh huh.
There's also just more like one-off plows in the minors in a way. Like there's
Heavy
like stuff like
plow.
Donkey, which is a really powerful plow. Like there's Heavy Plow, which lets you plow with animals. There's the Ox Goad. Um, Not only are they plows, but importantly, they're plows that don't need to use the plow space to some extent. Like Ox Goad, for example, doesn't need to use the plow space at all. Heavy Plow does, but only like once because you can set up Mega Plow, like a huge plow. Same with Steel Plow. So it sort of frees up plow actions for other people too, because you are forced to spend less of your actions on the actual plow space. Whereas stuff like swing and riding plow, you still need to take two plow actions. Um,
Sure. Yeah, having to compete for the space.
it's ultimately it's a minor difference though. It's not like the game is radically different. It's just you will find that you may not need to prioritize plows quite as hard, but it'll be a small difference, and every individual game will change, right? So I don't think it's super important to analyze this. If you're not used to playing this format, you'll probably still just be fine as long as you know how to read the cards.
Right.
You just have to read the cards. Like it's a lot of
Okay.
reading when you're not used to.
Yeah. Looks
We
like
good?
they're winding up. Kristen is not the star player, neither is Doe, so it's going to be their Mike or Monty, looks like, starting
Yeah,
here.
the one like nuance of this setup is it does tell you who first player is as soon as they're done with picking their cards. So if you see someone pick the seventh minor but not subtract a food, you know they're not first player. That's what we're
If
talking
you're
about here.
watching, yeah, play by play, which
If you
I
watch
guess
any
I'll
play
keep
by
that
play.
up just in case. All right, so it looks like there's quite a few. There's like 8 or 9 players watching just on the site, so that's fun. People are coming to spectate.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, seasons usually gets a decent crowd to watch. I
It's
wish the
kind of like,
spectator mode on the site was a little bit easier in terms um like I don't really know what they could offer, I guess, but that would not let people cheat too easily. But
right.
it would be nice to have a few more tools to let you actually like see people's hands. Like if there was a streamer mode or something that you could like
Yeah.
know people's
Um,
hands so you could comment.
I
But
guess, I mean,
I mean, the site is very old and isn't really getting regular updates, so it's a pipe dream to expect stuff like that.
yeah. When I first start joining the site, it looked like they were doing some like official kind of tournaments, maybe, but I haven't heard of those basically since I joined. So this, as far as I know, is the
Yeah, a
only
couple.
like format way to play on there.
Yeah, I think a couple of things happened. One, Chris is no longer as active, the owner of the site, and he used to be the one who used to organize the tournaments fairly often, or at least like he would set the things up and like promote them. And then secondly, like obviously BGA is now an alternative, so it has siphoned away a lot of players. And then I think the third thing is just the decks aren't getting published anymore, and they were at some point. And I think that was the impetus for a lot of the tournaments. Like people were playing decks that were going to be published, and they wanted to play them.
I see. Okay. All right. So just for format wise, the way this will work, it looks like Montu's start player, and if you think about this like a real life table, to his left is Mike, to Mike's left is Doe Academy, to Doe Academy's left is Kristen, and then her left is back to Montu. So that's how to think of it in terms of turn order.
Yeah,
And the little yellow square above Montu's name indicates the start player, and obviously the two food.
yeah. Monto having a think on the first move. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
he took a long time in that draft, so either had a lot of good cards or a lot of
I, I,
stone
yeah,
improvements.
I suspicion he has some important ox to play, but Monto also just likes taking Reedstone food.
Yeah,
So he might
that's
just
what it
default to
seems.
that while also having an Oct that he wants to play, and that's why he's sort of deliberating over that.
All
But Mike
right,
gets
yeah.
free Oct. Ooh, and that's Perpetual Student.
Ooh, one of your
Some people don't
favorites.
like. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this Oct. It's my Discord profile picture.
Yeah,
I just I like getting free food for playing Ox. Playing Ox is fun, and you just jam Ox with this, and it feeds you through stage one and stage two. And if you have good Ox, it just sets up an unbelievable like advantage. If you have bad Ox, then you should just not play this occupation. So
yeah. And so real, I won't. It's a lot of words on there, but basically you have to play your ox random, or you don't have to, but you can choose to, and then you get three food before you pay the cost. Is
yeah,
what that one does.
yeah, three food is a lot of food. Like,
Oh, you
and
want to talk
then
about
we should
this card?
Aramite briefly. So Kristen played Aramite, which is another like card I quite enjoy. The card basically gives you food for not having minor improvements in front of you. You can still play majors, so you can build a well, you can build a hearth. That's fine. But as long as you don't have minor improvements in front of you, you get a food at the end of a round. And if it's in addition, at the end of every harvest, you get a wood. So if you're at the end of round four, if you don't have any improvements in front of you, you'll get a food for the round and then also wood for the harvest. Um, Now, a couple of tricks with this card are usually to draft passing miners because they don't go in front of you. Especially if you're fourth, an awkward aspect of this is that you don't really want to be taking star player very often, so you can get stuck in fourth for a long time. Fortunately for Kristen, Doe star players here. So we
Yeah,
might expect to see some passing miners come out of Kristen's hand here. Oh, the other trick is to not keep this going for too long. Like you want to just eventually abandon this card
yeah.
and
I was
actually
going to
play your
ask
entire.
you when typically how far people push it past two harvests. Oftentimes, I would imagine.
I think the correct time is usually if you are growing and the miner is good and you can play it, you play it. If the miner is not impactful, you can keep it going for stage two as well. If grow flips early, sometimes it can be very, very strong to just play Aramite. Just like lean on Aramite to feed you through stage two because food can become very tight in early grow games. But typically, I'll just grow with the miner, and that's the first miner I'll play. Art
Well,
director is also very nice with this because it gives you good late actions, and you don't have control over where you're going in the seat order.
right.
Art
I was
director
going to
gives you a
ask
food
you.
and a resource for a traveling player.
So she's probably going to TP right now,
Yeah,
but
three fielding resource is a strong action. She's almost certainly going to take that. And we see a powerhouse occupation come out from
ooh,
Montu as well. That's a really strong one. Patroness. This is probably a top five oc in the set. Whenever you play an occupation, including Patroness itself, you get one resource of your choice. So typically people will take reed or stone with it. I personally dislike taking stone, even though that's sort of what Montu did, unless you have a reason to build the well very aggressively. It's just very, very powerful to just turbocharge growth with this, so I tend to prefer taking reed. Having said that, if you have something like Animal Trap or any other reason to want the well, like a well upgrade or like something that gives you extra food for having the well, then just turboing out the well can be really powerful because it can feed you through like the first two or three stages even. But it is
I
extremely powerful,
I wanted to
and
get
we
your
should expect to
thoughts.
see.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, two things. What do you? So the play of SP round one with Private Force, I've seen a lot. I actually saw it at the final at WBC once. What are your thoughts on opening that way?
I mean, Private Forest is a strong card that makes you start. So if you have a way to easily avoid starting in stage one, then Private Forest is fine. It puts you at a big food debt, and art you're never really happy to see something like art director come after you because it makes the bottom feeding actions more difficult. If sheep is late here, Doe is in actually quite a bit of pain unless he stays start, in which case you should just slam the three food spot.
Sure.
It's manageable, and like honestly, like I expect Doe to just have some way to deal with that.
Right.
You really don't want to be delivering twice in response to playing Private Forest. That's three actions that you spent basically for two food and very slow wood. So that's not great. But if you have some way to manage the food debt that you're putting yourself in, then it's a good card. I tend to almost never pick it because I think it just makes you starve. Like I'll pick it once in a while when I have really good food. Like if I'm going for like an air, like Aramite is probably not the right card for it, but something like that that gives you food early. Like it's hard to describe without talking about cards that people wouldn't be familiar with. But
Sure. Yeah.
like if you
Mike
have a
knows.
traveling player like art director plus dancer and you're doing that stuff, then maybe
So Mike played Bookmark, which allows him to play an Ock uh, for free three
in
rounds
round
from
five.
now. So start of round
Bookmark's just a
five.
very strong card. Spending
Yeah,
a wood and
it
half
could
an action.
could be a surprise. Like, well, he'll get the perpetual student bonus also probably.
Yeah, yeah, you get that as well. Additionally, I mean, it's a wood to food at worst because you save the food on playing the Ogg. And then usually you get half an action at least because you played it on minor action. Like, he took Star Player with it. Star Player was strong for him. He got Reedstone food, which is perfectly reasonable. He needs access to some Reed. I like Bookmark a lot. It's just very flexible, very strong minor. Doe does get
So,
his three food here, so that helps.
right, yeah, I was gonna say you're
But you
right
can
about
already see
that.
the little bit of pain that like the private force is putting, right? He could have taken forward instead. That would have
Yeah,
already like recuperated one of the wood he was getting from that. So
sure.
it's a bit easy to overestimate the fact that you're getting eight wood. You're getting the eight wood very slowly. It puts a lot of pressure on your stage one. Sheep is late as well, so food is at a premium. This perpetual student is going to be very strong here, as well as the Aramite art director.
Yeah, and then Mike took a sneaky grain as second action round one. Not really sneaky, but just that probably means he's got plans for it.
My suspicion is he has an Oct that requires him having a grain. So something like Grain Lover, which would immediately sow
Uh,
the like if you have a grain, lets you plow a field and immediately sow the grain onto it. So there's
oh, and
probably
since his are
something
going to be
that
random, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, he doesn't have control over his Ox, so my guess is just it is an Oct that requires the grain. It could also have just been the best last action there, but I suspect not because he took it second, fifth, sixth action of the game. That's not really an occupation you're hoping to see from your virtual
Wow.
student. That's a card
Okay.
that mostly just does nothing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
it gives you three animals, but it gives you them so slowly that they might as well not really bother it. The cattle is usually a point at least. Um, the sheep and the
yeah.
boar do some stuff. It really just doesn't do very much. It's like it's one of the weakest cards in the original set, and it's continued to be weak because getting a payoff that's 12 rounds away usually doesn't matter.
And I noticed also in round two, usually two read goes pretty early, but because Kristen had art director, Montu had patroness, like there wasn't as much value on the two read spot. And so Doe actually opened Reedstone
That's
Food and got double read back, which is nice.
if you're used to EIK, that is a big difference. There are a lot of cards that throw read into the game. I would say anyone who's used to revise has probably also seen this happen before, where like there's a number of cards that just add read into the game, and so two read isn't that highly valued. Two
Oh,
read is a pretty
but
mediocre action in terms of efficiency. It's just strong because read is very strong early in the game.
passing minor
That's
for
right.
Kristen with Aramite, so that's nice.
Pretty good one too. She has excess food, and there's a decent way to
Right.
use it. You get an action on a turn where the third action can actually matter quite a bit. So I like this move. Um, Presumably she'll open with Reedstone Food and then grab a wood action or something, or art director a wood up, or take three
Art
wood and then art
director
director
blast,
very
yeah.
fast. Stone house
Okay.
builder from Montu.
Interesting.
And he's taking a stone. He has some interesting plans here. I'm curious to see what he's going to play. Stonehouse Builder is not a card I like very much, unless you specifically have a way to use it to actually build stone rooms cheaply. It has some very degenerate combos with stuff like Carpenter,
Uh-huh.
where Carpenter initially reduces the cost of the stone rooms to three, and then Stonehouse Builder reduces it to one. When you can start making your stone rooms free, or you're just one stone, you can do very degenerate things. It also lets you use Redstone Food unblockably, but that's not a very useful action. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just not a very useful
I
case.
think a lot of people use it for that early, and it just seems to help the other players too much.
You can
So
already see
yeah,
there's too much read in this. If people want
yeah,
there to be like Monty taking read, Kristen already has like inflated some read into the game. So
might
Gimlet.
be a good game for Basket Maker's Workshop to get built. If that's the case.
This is very interesting though. He's playing Gimlet here, which leads me to suspect he has Almshouse. So notice Montu has one food, and there isn't really any food on the board. So and he has only one action left. So it's very unlikely he can get the three food he needs to feed in this harvest. But it's also pretty unlikely that he is going to voluntarily beg here to play a Gimlet, which is not that. I mean, it's decent, but it's not that strong a card. So what's very likely happening here is a way to discard beggars somehow. Uh, so this looks like an almshouse, which is a WM card that basically lets you discard as many beggars as number of harvests remaining when you play it. So you play it sometime in stage 2 or 3. You get rid of 4 or 5 beggars. It lets you beg through stage 1, gives you very powerful tempo, puts you on a good path for early growth.
So Doe had a chance to build first room because Montu now has room parts, but Doe is opting looks like for
Monty does not have room parts yet. He doesn't have the second read.
oh the reed. Sure, it's just the one wood less. Yeah.
Yeah,
So Doe will definitely have lockdown if he wants to build first room,
yeah.
most likely.
But he is able to take 3 wood here if he wants.
Yeah,
3 wood
yeah. I
also has
guess
the slight advantage of possibly putting Mike off a room, but it's reasonably likely that Mike has a 4 wood occupation in hand and he might randomly spike it, or he might choose to actually play his occupation without randomizing if it gives him a room in round 5.
yeah.
Perpetual
No,
student is optional. If it's very, very important for you to play a specific occupation, you can choose to just play that occupation.
sure. Yeah. Um. So I think you taught me this lesson, but the value or not value of building first room in four. I typically hate doing it because I've just got burned so many times. But I guess Doe's maybe setting up for that line.
Well, it's very unlikely he lets Montu build first room in 5. I agree that first room in 5 is better than first room in 4, but second room in 5 is not as good as first room in 4. I would say you can. So usually you can just choose to not park on star player if Row doesn't flip and you don't have the minors. You still got your room in. Usually that positions you perfectly fine in growth. Sometimes the person after you is the one who's going to grow build next, and that can become a bit of a problem. But such is life. That's not really something you can usually avoid by not building. Sometimes it is, but usually not.
And there's
Of course, here,
the
um,
beggars, of course.
yeah. So that is almshouse. What is happening here? He took 4 beggars because he's going to play an almshouse later for wood and a reed. It's going to discard all 4 of those beggars. He's not voluntarily taking minus 12 points here.
Well,
The thing that might persuade Doe to not build here is if he has a way to get 1 read like efficiently, because double building in 6 might actually be better than just building here and having to protect your start.
yeah. The weird thing is if Kristen hasn't. Oh, Montu's already SP. Never mind.
Yeah, Montu has already SP'd. Kristen didn't take a wood though, so she took an extra read. She's not ready to build a room yet. Oh
Yeah.
no, Aramite will make her ready though by round 5. She will get the wood
True.
in the harvest.
True.
So.
She's
And Mike will probably get forward here, so Mike will be ready to build, but he is looking to be last in the growth queue. But there's a head of the family coming down, so that really changes things.
wow. That's nice.
So
That's
Kristen played head
Kristen
of the
Bartok.
family.
Or no,
No, no,
that's
no, no, no,
Kristen.
that's not Kristen's Zoc.
That's
So
Kristen.
head of the family, you've probably seen if you played EIK, it just lets you grow regardless of whether someone else is on grow or not. Very strong occupation in late growth, very weak occupation if grow flipped early, but grow didn't flip early here. So um, I think Kristen will, especially Kristen being potentially last, maybe second in the growth queue, is going to benefit quite a bit from this. If growth comes late, Kristen's game is extremely strong here. She will have very
my
advantage over
my
everyone.
kid's a mailman off the bookmark perpetual student.
So this is going to slow the game down a little bit. Mailman lets you basically put resources on spaces, and anyone can take these resources. But if other people do, they pay you 1 food. Mailman's really interesting here because Mike can pretty much guarantee any action he wants here. Um,
Yeah.
Montu probably will build here, so Mike could put the 2 wood on 4 wood and get 6 wood. Although that does tempt Montu to not build. I will say head of the family changes the equation a bit. Montu might not have to build here because head of the family is sort of just getting out of the growth queue. So even if Kristen builds, it doesn't really affect Montu. So
Huh.
it is very possible that Montu will open with whatever best action Mike creates. And there's a lot of juicy actions on the board. So
Yeah.
this
I
is going
mean,
to create
it's
a
a
very
read for the alms house we expect them to play, so that's
yeah.
something to consider.
Yeah, I think if Mike puts 2 wood or 1 read on the 4 wood, Montu will just take that. It's almost certainly worth it. I think he could even just
Yeah.
go for a double build. Whereas if he puts like the 1 read on Wheatstone Food, Montu might not bother. But it's hard to say. It's very hard to predict what will happen here. And unfortunately, that also means it's very hard to predict for Mike. I would not
Yeah.
want to necessarily be in his position. This is not one where like head of the family not being down actually makes us a lot simpler because Montu probably just has to build then.
Right.
Uh,
And then if Montu does build here, though, does Doe have to SP? Think?
with head of the family down, I don't think Doe really needs to worry too much about us being. But if he has good minors, I don't see any reason why not. It's a reasonably flexible position. But Doe's biggest problem is he just doesn't have food. Private Forest has sort of done this, where like the effects of Private Forest keep going for a while until you can really set up your food engine. And Doe has one food, and there's not really going to be bottom feeding easily available, considering Montu also has no food. Montu does have tempo on the fireplace though, so that is something. Oh wow! So he set up a 6 clay 2 word spot, which he's indicating is what he wants to take.
Huh.
He also put a read on fences, which is interesting. Like
He's the
Hedgekeeper does
hedge
want to take
keeper.
fence, but why does he want to read on this part? Like what? Like
I don't
the
know.
Hedgekeeper wants to take fencing, but like the Hedgekeeper wanting to take fencing while taking read is not something that is obvious to me. He might have a minor that costs read, which would make a lot of sense.
Huh.
Um,
Is that
that's
six clay spot good enough to tempt Montu? I wonder.
I think we might probably just take it actually. Yeah. I don't really see any reason why not, because you take 6 clay 2 word, you renovate to the fireplace, you build a clay room instead. Seems fine. Or you take 6 clay 2 wood, you build a room. Like the thing is, building a room surely here doesn't do very much. Like if Grow flips in 6, he still grows in 6 next round probably, unless Chris like well sorry, if Grow flips in 6, he does buy himself a round of Grow.
Mike got
If
it.
Grow
He
flips in
got
7,
the
I don't think it does it
right. Right. Uh. So
because
Doe
he'll never be
has.
he'll if he stays Stifler, he's very unlikely to be able to grow second action next round if Grow
One of my
flips
old
because
favorite cards, and I believe they did reprint this one and revised. Right. It's basically the same
yep,
card.
it's card. I mean, it's almost exactly what a Doe needs. So this
Yeah.
is kind of perfect. He needed food, and this provides him 2 food before the harvest. Well, 1 food before the like 2 food before the harvest, and then 8 food overall. Um, it is not going to be enough, but it goes a long way. Like getting three food with an action is very doable for Doe. Getting like 4 or 5 food with an action is would be very hard. So
Yeah, and I guess I'm just also noticing Doe didn't play a stage one Ock, so trying to think about what he could be setting up for if he has a good reason for not
this
playing
looks
Ox early.
So I know Joe has a penchant for a wealthy man, which is like we talk about wealthiest European. That's a card that if it's your first occupation gives you 1 resource for every round that's already been completed. Very strong card. Can lead to absolute blowouts, especially when the Ox are on the weaker side. It looks like the Ox are quite strong here, so I'm not convinced that wealthiest European would be like a slam dunk win, but still quite strong card. Doe likes wealthy man a lot. I've seen him play it a bunch, which is instead of giving you 1 resource, it gives you 1 point for every improvement you've played if it's your first occupation. That one is not quite as good, but if you have the right minus for it, it can be really strong as well. I would not say Chicken Coop and Private Forest are among cards that I particular. Well, Private Forest is fine. Um, these are cards with no awk requirements, so that makes a pretty big difference.
Mike is really he just doesn't care about rooms here. He's doubled up on his mailman. That's fun.
It's sort of interesting. I mean, I'm guessing Mike is going for clay rooms here, but if he was, I'm surprised he didn't take 5 clay. The fences are sort of tempo as well because no one has built a fireplace, so he can go and grab the sheep. Montu also didn't build stables, which is slightly weird. In that part of the
Oh,
reason to play
because
Gimlet is to build
Gimlet.
stables and be able.
Sure.
Yeah, he could build 2 stables for 2 wood and then be able to grab the sheep. It is wealthiest European. Okay, so Doe gets 4 resources here. A little bit earlier than I thought. 4 stone. I'm not really sure what this is doing. I wonder if he has a way. He might have something like Powerhouse, which turns the stone into food. Or doesn't turn the stone into food, but Powerhouse is an occupation that gives him food for just having. It might also be Quarryman. I've seen Quarryman do a lot of use in food type games, but right now Doe's food is very concerning to me, even with Chicken Coop.
Yeah. Let's see. Does Kristen go ahead and build here, or does she just wait? I guess there's nothing else amazing out there.
She is close enough to double build that I would probably go for the double build at this point. She
Take a
can go
stone
for like
wall. Yeah, she's going
yeah,
2 wood stone. Looks like.
yeah. I mean the Aramite is amazing feeding. She has an art director. Kristen's like if Grow flips next round and Kristen double builds, that's really strong. If Grow flips in 7, head of the family's insanely strong. Grow flips in 7, I'm really envious of Kristen's position here. It looks extremely strong. Everyone else seems to have games that are super dependent on actions right now. Like Wealthiest European gives you resources, but you have to spend actions to use those resources. Perpetual Student
Oh,
wants you to play off, gives you a ton of food. Oh, it's Stone
Grows
Kitchen. Oh,
instead.
that's very good. But Mike's gonna grab the sheep here, so I mean, I presume at least Mike's gonna grab the sheep here. Otherwise, there's no real reason to fence. And if Mike grabs the sheep here, those Stone Kitchen isn't doing very much.
Yeah, he'll have 2 food.
Yeah,
I guess
it'd
that
be
would make
interesting if Mike has something like some payoff for these animals. Like if he has a cat lover, which lets him build rooms cheaper if he has lots of animals. He's gonna have 4 sheep next round if he takes the 3 sheep here. So he definitely has a good amount of like setup there.
wow.
Wheedler.
Continue with Wheeler Stonehouse
So
Builder combo.
just for people who don't know, Wheedler gives you a food whenever you take an action that gives you food. So traveling players, day labor, fishing, or wheatstone food. It's a pretty weak occupation, but can do stuff. Like
Yeah,
the
some
problem is like Montu's game is again looking a lot like just want to grow, like use your extra actions to get good value. Growth is late here, and he's gonna grow in 8 because of head of the family, but that's still pretty late for the setup that he's doing. He hasn't really shown any propensity towards farming. So
I guess he's thinking maybe he's not convinced the Wheedler's the way to go.
yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's not an exciting arc here. It it's not a food engine. It's just gonna sort of stave off
Trickle, yeah.
starvation. Um, he does have the Stonehouse Builder to build around it, but honestly, like in a in a late growth game, spamming RSF is not a way that you win the game. Can't do that really.
Yeah. There's not really been a lot of wood added to this game so far because Doe took
No, it's a good
almost
game.
all. Air
I
might,
would
I
say that's
guess. Yeah,
there is 8 wood injected into the game, so it's not completely empty. I
eight.
will say that that is one thing that Kristen is going to have an issue with is if she double builds, which she probably should, given her setup. I'm not always a fan of double building, even in this position. So I'm not saying she should double build. Actually, it's just that she took a read action with her traveling players, which suggests that she wants to.
Sure.
She might have a miner that uses the read instead. The thing is, with late growth ahead of the family, I'm pretty happy usually just going to 3 people and then getting family growth without room and just getting good farming tempo. But it does look here that she might get a lot of value from double building and growing aggressively. So I think double building is pretty reasonable here still. But she's gonna
Yeah.
have to figure out some solution. There is not much
Yeah.
wood in this game.
And she, I mean, and once she, if she plays minors on these grows, I mean, she doesn't really have food solved either, although she's got a couple of decent ways. But
Yeah. I mean, hopefully for her, she has a passing miner for the first grow, and then in 8 you can just grow because like you're how long are you going to keep this Eremite running? If your miners are good, you kind of have to play them. Well, this herdsman also doesn't do very much, but at least it lets him build a fireplace and cook some animals.
yeah, I
Yeah, we're
guess,
seeing a lot of like Awk enablers with very weak Awks coming out, which is usually a bad sign for the people playing the enablers. Like Patroness is really strong, but then Stonehouse Builder and Herdsman don't do very much. And Mike's like Perpetual Student's really strong, but then he's randomed into a bunch of weird nonsense.
hmm,
I will say Hedgekeeper is a good Awk, but it also wants a lot of action. And it does inject some wood into the game at least, so maybe that's a way that Mike can get an advantage here if he builds like he probably also wants to double build then and still get some advantage, but it's
yeah,
tough to say for him. Yeah. He's a bit too far away from all of that.
I guess. I mean, if nothing else, Montu got the reads for his alms house that we expect he has with the playing an Ock there from Patronus.
Yeah, I think Mike's best case scenario here is he has a cat lover and he can push out very cheap rooms and grow aggressively because head of the family opens up the queue. At which point I think he has actually a pretty sizable advantage in this game. Um, but if he doesn't have a big payoff for these animals, his game just sort of goes nowhere here. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Doe just takes the fishing spot here just to
I think he
make sure
pretty much
James
has
is
to
covered.
take
Yeah,
2 read.
I guess
That
being
can't be
one
right.
doesn't make sense.
I wonder if he has like I don't know what the read would be. The well doesn't make sense here either. He starts like
Yeah,
my
I
guess is he
guess he's.
has to provide him some food because otherwise he's in very deep trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, he's opening with grow and he has one action to get.
So
Uh,
another interesting to keep in mind is if you remember the tournament standings, Kristen is last in 8th seed, and
sure.
Doe is first. So if Doe struggles and Kristen has a really good game, that blows the game. That blows the tournament up quite a bit. So it'd be very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes. that I can take plus F here.
Yeah.
Let's make, don't know what it means.
Mike forgot that Kristen paid him for a resource. I mean, I guess we can arbitrate this. He didn't take his food. He already had eight. Or,
Yeah,
I mean, he can't take back any actions now. That's absurd.
yeah.
But like, getting one food should be fine.
All right, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's see what we missed here. Doe just took me some food instead, so he's still a food short of being able to feed, assuming he grows next round. He'll get one food from the chicken coop and then be at four. But
I think he's okay now. Like he's stabilizing a little bit. The chicken coop helps. He only needs one more food, so he can get that in a multiple of ways. Ideally, he can avoid day laboring. I'm a little bit confused about what this RSF is doing. I'm guessing he wants the well. It can't seriously be for another room right now. I think he has to sort out feeding first.
right,
He
right,
can't just build starving. So
and I mean
if he gets the
anybody
well, he
building a
does
second
get four.
food room.
Yeah. The well is reasonable here. It does give him start giving him four food per harvest, which does add up. I mean, it'll solve all of his feeding problems after he stabilizes. So
Yeah,
um, he just can't build a well next round unless he has a miner that provides him food or is willing to take a beggar, which I suspect he's not willing to do here.
I mean, well, might just get snapped up by Montu though potentially.
It might. Um,
Well, Montu has feeding also to solve, and
Montu
Alms House will get
Montu
it.
has some major, yeah, Montu has some major feeding issues as well.
Huh.
Definitely surprised Mike is thinking about doing something that isn't three word. I guess he's looking at putting food pressure on the table. I or
Wow,
he's looking to
he
build a
does.
I guess he's looking to build a playroom then. That's his plan.
Yeah,
Because this is a need for a playroom. It does give
he's
six
probably
wood
on
to Montu. Montu gets six wood.
Doe. Yeah, probably so. Yeah,
I think Kristen has to build grow, or she squanders too much of her advantage. A bit unfortunate. Kristen would like to take the six wood, but I don't really think you can afford to not grow here.
here's an interesting G4 card that people probably haven't
Yeah, it's one
seen
of my favorite
before.
cards actually. It lets you play in a very weird way. Basically, it says one of your fields you can harvest fully, and this also counts like weird fields, like fields that are miners that you sow on. So there are some cards in the set that let you sow wood or stone on them, and you can harvest them immediately. Or there's a card called Cash Crop, which lets you sow crops, but you get points when you harvest. And you can harvest all of those every round, every harvest, which is very strong as well.
So
I
Kristen's
like
gonna
this
start
card.
playing.
Just that Doe has no setup for it at all.
Right, right. I assume there's more coming, but yeah, Kristen does go for the double build. So
Well, the one interesting thing that Mike's play does enable is he can take forward here and be ready to build. Having said that, he looks like he wants to build a clay room, so he might take forward and then Reno instead of
yeah,
building.
he does have a sheep coming in from the animal dealer. If he did somehow have cat lover, then that could be huge. But
Yeah, in which but the fish action suggests that he doesn't have cat lover to me at least.
true.
Because
Yeah. Oh,
what do you want
Montu
to play for
passing
if you
up
have
the
cat
six
lover?
wood for SP. Look at this. This must be a
He's
strong
worried that
place.
Kristen will first action. I think this is unless it's a miner that provides food that he needs in play, which may be the case. I mean, could just be Alms House here,
It's
but
probably
I don't.
Alms House.
Not,
Yeah.
I feel like this is unnecessarily aggressive because it's not that likely that Kristen first action grows next round to screw you, and you're behind, so you have to take some risks here. I think, like passing on six wood here, which he probably wheels four though. Like I don't like Doe can't take forward; he has to feed. So he's only
Yeah.
risking two wood here. Maybe he thinks that's a worthwhile risk. Reed Pawn is a very strong card. He wants that Basket Maker's Workshop pretty badly. Too bad he can't build it here. It'd be very strong for him.
What? I don't see. Okay. For some reason, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see Mike Monty's person on the start player, but there it is.
Mike gets mega paid off for not taking three wood though. Getting
Yeah,
six here
big
is amazing.
time.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to build a clear room at this point. He has Hedgekeeper and like seven
Right.
wood.
Yeah, he wants to
Already
build
has
some.
on his, yeah. He forgot to take his sheep off the board also. Which yeah, I know the irony of me telling someone or reminding but it do be the case. Um, Also, I think he's getting forward here because Montu didn't play a thing that lets him feed, so he's awking instead. Ham glazer. Interesting.
Wait, wait, who's doing that?
Montu is playing ham glazer to bake the board that he took off the herdsman. It's not
Oh,
a very
interesting.
sustainable solution, but it does feed him now. Lets him play an occupation. If he has a four occupation miner that's really impactful, like apiary, or actually more likely the field one, the card that gives you a field every time you play a miner, treasure map,
Uh, huh, that is interesting.
then that makes a little bit more sense. But the thing is, he only gets to bake off of this occupation. He doesn't get to always bake when he plays an ox, so he doesn't have like a sustainable way to bake at the moment.
But he
But it's
gets
an
to
interesting
bake
setup. Like,
when other players do, right?
yes, that's true, but no one's
He's
baking here, right? Like, who's shown
right,
any
right.
inclination to?
Well, not immediately anyway. Yeah, Mike's just taking good actions. I mean, he just seems to not care at all. He's just taking more wood.
The head of the family is helping Mike the most because his food is very solved. Well, aside from Kristen, I think Kristen's getting good value out of it too.
Yeah,
He has really good food, and he just had efficient. He's just taken really efficient actions, and losing priority on the growth queue can hurt a lot when you do that. But if someone opens it up a little bit, so you get your grow one round sooner, that can be all the difference, really. I think he's still a little bit unfortunate in that growth is late here. He really didn't want growth to be late here.
yeah.
Like his setup is
No,
really good for earlier, slightly earlier
I
growth. So
I missed it. But did Kristen go Nada with her grow? I didn't see a minor that she played.
yes, she did. She did.
She did. Okay. And Montu, of course, with Dom's
Very
house.
interesting to see what Mike does here. Is he going to go Reedstone Food into double build?
Ah, that is interesting. I mean, he has less wood pressure than anyone, so
Yeah, I think it would actually be pretty good. His food is pretty solved, and I think the double build actually makes sense here. But there might be reasons not to. He might have miners that cost wood. He might want to build stables.
it's like he's just
He's
going
building
full
stables. It looks
Montu.
like.
Yeah. Um,
Two builds.
Doe.
This
Man,
this
this.
looks a lot to me like he has something like a card that lets you grow if you have all animals, handmade or something. He wants to
Okay.
accommodate the board that he's going to get soon, but he already can. He still hasn't taken his sheep, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let me run it again.
I mean, I guess I don't know. We should be reminding people in a tournament game like they should just remember their resources. I guess.
Yeah, it's on the board. I mean,
Yeah.
trying to think about if Doe or Montu wants the BMW. Like both of them will be out of read when they do it, and they really want to get that read. I guess Montu wants it more because read bond's coming
I don't think Doe wants BMW. His BMW is kind of like. I mean, the only reason to want it is for Reed is just on the table, but it's not actually good for him otherwise.
in. Right. He needs some sort of longer term feeding, though. I guess he's angling for some kind of oven, I imagine, with the machete play, but I don't see. He's pretty
No,
far
my,
away
my
from
guess
it.
would be vegetable play with Stone Kitchen. Honestly, he might just play these miners because they're pretty good miners though, and like
Yeah.
to me, it looks like Doe's in trouble because of late growth here. He probably had a plan that just got really screwed up. It's never nice to have to park twice. Um, and especially so when your food is sketchy, that's like when the worst time to park. Yeah, he's taking clay here. This is an interesting move, but
Yeah.
it could be that he has a stonehouse occupation here. He took stone with his wealthy euro, which is usual, but then he hasn't like built the well out of it, or
Oh, wow.
he's
Kristen
had
goes
time
for
to do it.
the read. Montu's
Yeah, it's very
probably
reasonable.
just going to build BMW right here. I imagine.
That would be
Well,
my
there's,
guess.
I mean, there's three stone out there, which is a good action, but
No, three stone is terrible here because there's already too much stone in the game, and like everyone can build all of the major improvements. So this is a very good move for Bantu. He has lots of read coming in. He has a unblockable reedstone food action, which admittedly not great, but still decent. My guess is
yeah.
Tristan is just going to build a room at some point in clay or something.
Huh.
But I do think the four read was a little bit aggressive there. It's like more read than she really needs, unless she's
Yeah.
building a
Maybe
room.
she
And even
has
if
a
she's building a
minor or
room,
something.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm guessing a minor. Yeah, so some point a minor is coming in. So playing an
Okay,
occupation.
Mike's going for another random. We get Cat Lover?
Master
Not quite.
Tanner. So he doesn't need to do it without playing without building a room. That's why he didn't build a fourth. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But boar are
So,
late, so it actually turns out that animal handler might not be quite as useless as it usually is.
yeah.
That boar might actually be significant.
So this one
I don't know if
looks,
but this looks worse to me than just building a second room here with Hedgekeeper.
yeah,
But again, I don't know his, so he very well could have something that makes this line better.
Doe does get the well. That's really nice. I didn't think at the time he would get it, but
His food next round still sketchy, but I guess he can
yeah.
bottom feed once and figure it out, like or
I
he
mean, he
get the
could
sheep
take
or
those
something.
sheep, but yeah,
Yeah,
Mike probably won't
yeah.
do that.
Presumably Mike is not taking more sheep. Yeah, he has 10 food, assuming he's fed in the harvest, which I guess he did. It's very hard to keep track of Mike's food. He's getting food from too many sources. So
Yeah.
he did also take that fishing action. He should have a lot of food. There's going to be another 6 foot action here, presumably. At least
Yeah, I
four,
was
but there might be another.
wondering if Kristen is angling for SP into it, but because
She has
Kristen
to grow
just
here. She's going to do that.
oh she's
No,
going
I think.
to here.
Yeah, Kristen also has to have a minor she wants to play, which she might not want to with Aramite. I will say this is going on for a little bit too long, so fortunately grows late, so it doesn't really matter if you don't have ceiling from your minors or something.
Okay, here's Doe's second off. Let's see if it helps the feeding situation at all.
Yeah, I
Trailblazer.
mean it helps the plowing situation, but that costs food.
Yeah, I mean it works a little towards machete, but
It is a real Trailblazer is one of those cards that lets you plow without having to go in the plow space. It lets you plow basically on the sow space. As I was talking about earlier, if people were like for anyone who was listening at the time, it's a good card. It's not amazing, but basically like it is an anti combo with Machete, by the way, because Machete empties a field every harvest. So Trailblazer just stops working because Trailblazer only lets you plow if you have no empty fields.
wow, Kristen's
So
keeping Airmite going. She grew Nada again. Interesting.
yeah, I would not want to play Trailblazer Machete in the same game usually. Machete is good, but not that strong. It's definitely not worth turning off a Trailblazer.
Oh yeah, it's like an anti combo, I guess. So he used one of the food coming in, I guess like the well food to pay for the field. He said so.
Yeah,
So
those
yeah,
games just looks really bad.
yeah, he
Not
needs to
much else I can.
get those sheep pretty bad. Like if Mike takes them, he's in.
He will get those sheep. Fortunately, that will stem the tide and hopefully let him survive. Yeah,
Mike's pressing the wood.
Mike needs some way to plow. That's the main thing he's missing here. The rest of his game is going pretty well.
Yeah.
Always risking the sheep. I mean, he can risk the sheep. Seems reasonable, but what occupation is he playing here?
Huh.
Is it something like hobby farmer? That'd be quite good here. Just get a sow and a veg in the same action.
Yeah, that would be a nice
Hobby
one.
farmer would also be a nice like long-term feeding solution. Like you can definitely make veggie your feeding solution if you have a machete plus stone kitchen.
Gardener. Huh.
Okay, his actions are going to be okay. So
So
Gardener Machete is a really cool combo actually, and because now he can take veg, sow, and Machete double harvests it. It harvests everything, but it leaves the things on the field, so it triggers his Trailblazer. So this is nice. Like he did have a way to make all of this actually work into a combo. Having said that, I don't think anyone else is going to sow, so he just gets away. He's not going to take the sheep. He's just going to get away with this. Yeah, this works really nicely. This actually is a huge thing for his game. He gets 8 food per harvest. His food is solved now.
is it
Gardner was
8
huge
on
here.
the stone kitchen? 4 per?
Stone Kitchen is four
Yeah.
per. Yeah, so
Jeez. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean that Gardner here single-handedly turns his food into like a solved problem. So, because if he didn't have Gardner, he was going to double harvest, but then have to eat both veggies. So he was having to take veggies sow again, which is a lot of actions. And now he just gets 8 food. So
yeah.
this is
Gardner's
for
nice with
Doe.
machete. I mean, it feels a little risky to me just because I mean, if someone takes veg, you're just
If someone takes veg, he gets cheap, right? So it's not that risky. I mean, it sets him back because he doesn't get the engine going quite as fast, but it doesn't kill him.
right, right.
And so the upside is huge and the risk is very small because is anyone going to sheep sweep him? Seems super unlikely.
Yeah, Mike's trying to grow. Montu can't
Mike wants to
get
grow
the
and grab the board next round, so the 4 sheep will probably just be available.
Kristen did build the fireplace with her Reno though,
Yeah,
so
but
she might.
now he got the veg, right? So his food salt.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one can
yeah.
legally
Now,
sell.
yeah, now he's good.
If Montu had a board, he could actually bake and screw dough pretty badly, but that cannot happen. That would be a deadly move here. Actually, it would single-handedly kill off Dough's game if Montu had a board to bake here. Now Montu's game is far enough behind that I don't think he could even afford to do that, but
Kristen
It is
does
something that
feed
is
sheep.
legal.
Okay,
It's
so
legal.
that's gets her feeding done for a while. And Airmite's
So
still in line with the fireplace because it's major.
it's impressive. I mean, JP would
Yeah,
be proud.
yeah. You talking about Doe's game?
No, I'm talking about Kristen's game. Terramite is going till round 9. That's very
Oh,
unusual.
oh, that part. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So the only real
JP is
plow help we've seen is Trailblazer so far.
it's a huge, huge plow help now. Like Gardner makes like machete work with it, and Trailblazer is genuinely very strong if you have the right setup for it. The one awkward thing for him is he won't have a crop to sow next round, so he'll probably take grain and sow.
Uh
I don't
huh.
think he needs to take veg and sow and have like 16 food per harvest. That seems excessive. Um,
So Montu's line or game plan for the rest of the last 5 rounds, he's got to get enough wood for fencing, figure out fields, figure out crops.
he's going to build some stone rooms here. He has enough
Yeah,
stone to do it. It looks very likely. There's an alchemist lab which actually really helps him. Like
yeah. Let's review that one and see what.
so, alchemist lab works with what is the card? It works with Stonehouse Builder. Like so, he can use it unblockably, which is funny. If he
Oh,
has a read in the stone.
interesting. Yeah.
Not that that's going to come up very often. I don't think people are going to like block the alchemist lab. So.
Right.
Also, he might get 6 here, but I think Kristen probably might just take the 3 word here. Yeah, congrats to Doe. This is a very nice little game plan that he's found, and he just about managed to like execute it. I think if growth was early, Doe would be having an absolutely bonkers game.
Yeah.
He would have gotten this
Yeah.
setup, this hard, but he would also have just accelerated everything else about his game much faster. He
Yeah.
might have been able to
Starting.
sow grain and the like field, plow another field, get a grain and sow it in addition to the veggies, for example.
How does
He
machete
he
got
gets
to?
he gets 2 veggies. Machete harvests both, and he gets both. Can you zoom in on the cards? I'm pretty sure that's how it works
On well, let me look at
on
machete.
both of those cards. You may harvest all of the goods planted on one of your fields. And what does Gardner say?
Supply not the
Yeah,
veggie field
yeah,
whenever you harvest them.
yeah. He just gets two V for from the supply. Why would they both come off? Machete says you can harvest all of the goods, and Gardner says when they harvest, you get them from the supply instead. It's fine. It has exactly the same keywords, right? What we just saw.
Yeah. I mean, I
Show me
don't
one more
see
time for Gardner.
Gardner.
Whenever you harvest them, yeah, I don't see any problem here. Mm-hmm. A good combo. I'm pretty certain I've seen slash done this combo before. Like, this seems like a classic one at this point. Ate food bakery.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. Hayrake is a fun card. That's another plow out. So Hayrake gives
Oh, okay,
Kristen
that'll help. Montu. Montu played it.
Montu. Hayrake gives Montu unblockable plow actions if he's using his third person to plow. Another card that just wanted early growth. It's not surprising. Montu always tends to prefer an early growth plan for the most part. So he
Yeah,
drafts
or at
around it.
least generally angle for it and be ready for it if it is there, or be close to first grow.
And I mean,
Which,
this is very, very polarized early grow hand. Like Alms House is extremely strong in early grow, good whenever. The thing is, he's also just taking good cards. Like Weed Punch is just a good card. Alms House is just a good card. Gimlet is, I don't think Gimlet's a very good card. It's only good in early grow. Like I doubt he's going to get that much value out of it. Does it apply to Stone Rooms? It might actually apply to Stone, in which case it's a nice
I
combo.
think it's. Let's see. Yep,
Yeah, it does.
for
Okay,
stone
so
rooms.
it's just a nice combo with Stonehouse Builder. He gets to build his Stone Rooms for 2 stone 2 read. It's pretty strong.
Yeah,
He might still
he
get that.
is
His
he.
game is a bit behind. We'll see.
Yeah, I wonder if he wants to read here. Is he that at that point? But okay, so let's see. Mike has just started plowing the hard way, so maybe he doesn't have some sneaky way to get there. assume Doe trailblazed,
Yeah, the tricky thing for
which
Mike is what he really wants to do is take these two board. So he really wants to go fire hearth or fireplace into two board here. So that he can eat his sheep. He basically has to build a cooking implement for the master tanner to work, but he also basically needs these two borers. So it's a little bit awkward.
he probably wanted to Reno into the fireplace, but Montu opened with it, so
Yeah,
it's
I think the
complicated.
really awkward thing for Mike here is that Kristen could just easily take the boar. So he has to
Wow,
strongly
this is a
consider
card you
going
don't
to
see
sheep.
every day.
Well, here's the nice thing. This is a combo with head of the family. If she goes on the fence spot, the stables are unblockable. So
True. Yeah.
it's quite nice. Like I love seeing cards like this do work because it's a very weak card usually, but
Right.
it does more work in Kristen's hand.
Huh.
Imagine her having Hedgekeeper. That would be a
Yeah.
really strong combo, actually. She could basically do that every round if she wanted, although it's really, you only need to do this twice to get breeding pairs of all types and then you're set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the game everyone's drafted. Everyone has drafted a really interesting and synergistic hand. Um,
Mo-
Sort of except for Mike, because Perpetual Student, like, sets it
Montu
up.
is not doing this correctly, I think.
Montu needs to redo that, yeah. I mean, this is better for Montu to not have to do it here. He gets
Right.
to take a good action, so he's just messing up. People should pass back to him, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The cards that people have played have definitely changed the equation quite a bit. I think Doe's game, which looked completely dead, Gardner really saved, and is going to be a pretty interesting game for him. Kristen's been in a good spot throughout. Mike is doing some interesting stuff, but Mike looks behind now,
He did build a
partially because
hearth,
other people
which
solved.
is yeah.
He needs to get these two board, which I think he might. Kristen might have other priorities here, like fencing into building stables. So yeah,
Oh, so
Doe's
for
right. They're
sure.
both technically unblockable. It does matter if someone else wanted to take RSF, like,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
So Doe is, I guess, just going after wood, getting fences down. Although you said he might take grain and try to sow.
Uh,
Yeah,
this
he's
is
going
this is,
after
this
grain.
is grain sow. Like grain sow is the only reasonable move here. You want to get your trailblazer field going. You also just want to sow grain. I think Doe just wants to take grain twice and sow them twice, so that he can get six grain because he's going to use the machete only on the veggies.
Yeah.
The nice thing about sowing grain now also is that usually you want to sow one harvest before, but now the nice thing about sowing them now is they never come off, so the trailblazer never like gets kicked out because of them. So Doe will basically just have permanent trailblazer as long as he keeps sowing on the new fields.
Yep.
That's a good card for Mike actually. He is slightly insane here though, like not taking the board. He's playing Forest Farmer, which gives him an action back because he can now spend a word to basically get that person he put on plow back. But
Kristen might take
I,
the board, but with Welfarist, she maybe doesn't care.
yeah, she might not care. That said, look at the actions on the board, and why would she not care? There's like nothing. There's not going to be anything there.
Yeah, I mean,
What else
maybe she
are you
goes
going to
cover
do?
crops or something, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
Could
guess
be a
veg.
veggie. That's about a veggie or two would, assuming she's not start playing, which she's passed on minors for so long. I don't know why she would start play here. Um, if the risk pays off, it's really good for Mike. He basically buys himself an action for wood. Good, good deal. Buys himself two actions for wood. But there go the board. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
I
got
don't know.
enough to get him. Huh.
I feel like it's just an unnecessary risk considering you still have to plow like at least three more times. So why don't you just play the forest farmer later? And, like those two board were huge for Mike with Master Tanner.
Yeah, that is interesting. He didn't snag him. Here goes
He's also
Kristen
kind
with
of
it.
hungry.
I mean, yeah, he'll eat some sheep, but
Well,
yeah,
he'll eat his sheep, but that's what I mean. He'll have plenty of space for the boar because he's hungry enough to want to eat the sheep.
yeah, maybe waiting on the
Yeah,
board. Well,
that seems. If you just read the board and what it's going to look like after all the actions are gone, why are you taking the risk to like play forest farmer here? Just take your
I
boar.
mean, there's a chance he
He has
wanted
a
whatever the other rock was to come out, or did he not perpetual that?
He didn't run. No, he said he didn't want to take any
Oh,
chances.
interesting.
Yeah, I very much dislike this move. Don't think it was good. Unless he has some other out from Master Tanner, this just looks bad to me.
Like grab the veg with his jump. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
putting Montu
Mike's
on four
also
wood here.
yeah. Mike's team just sort of looks unambitious now, which is also a problem.
Wow, my Montu immediately to
Yeah, he has.
stone.
Yeah, he does want to take a risk of Mike renovating. Basically, he wants to build stone rooms, right? He's gonna
Yeah.
take 3 read here on the wheels to him.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I guess the payoff's worth it. Like his farm is getting behind, but I guess he'll get a bunch of points for the stone room. So
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna punt on plows to some extent and just try to fence, get some animals, and um,
have a big stone
like
house
build
for.
5 or 6. Yeah, my guess is he wants to go for six, something like 6 stone rooms. If he takes 3 read, which he's not getting here, um, yeah,
Yeah, but
always a
then he
risk, right?
definitely wants to
I,
read.
I think in his position, like he might have had to go for this because he doesn't have the ability to. Well, no, he doesn't have Mason's Apprentice. What am I talking about? He should just taken the read. I mean, the stone reno is important, but it's just Mike who can renovate, and like you can take that risk, I think, because Mike clearly has other priorities too. Losing this read is pretty painful for Montu,
Yeah,
unless he has a read discounter. Like if he has something like a ladder here, then it becomes less of a problem. But the read is both his food and his like way to actually score and grow. Interestingly, no one here can grow, even if Montu gets the read. But yeah, Doe taking the read is a real killer on Montu's game.
yeah. No,
It's
I
not
don't think.
surprising though. Doe now wants to grow. He has infinite food. So
Yeah,
him taking like 6 or 5 play and building a room, or even 2 potentially, is pretty reasonable here.
I figured Kristen would go for the wood. She might set up the welfarist plan again.
Oh yeah, for sure. She wants to double breed animals, 100%. Day labor, interesting.
For the fish,
All
I
right.
think.
Also, like Montu does have hay rake too, so he doesn't have to punt on plows. I was just talking nonsense. Um,
Right, right, right. But like getting crops and getting your
yeah,
wood.
I think with the family sitting ahead of me, this is a little bit more aggressive than you need to be. I would just take the read and like set up for a Stonehouse Builder whenever you can, because you're going to build 3 rooms at once basically with the setup, or at least 2 rooms at once. So
He grabbed.
it's
He said A, but he has a boar.
he means boar. He can't get an animal. He can't get a cow. He's fine. It is boar.
Oh yeah.
Mike sows. I wonder if he has something interesting with the sow. Some interesting miner to play. Like a harvest feast would be really strong for Mike. Harvest feast is a miner that lets him that lets everyone remove all of their planted crops if they want, which Doe would not even choose to do. I think he might do it for the grain, but not the veggie.
Yeah. So Kristen went 4 wood, 3 wood. So I wonder what Kristen's plow plan is, or if she has one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with something like an ox team, or even a round 12 ox team is pretty good. So.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
There also just isn't that much plow pressure. She might just be able to get 2 or 3 plows manually, and that's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. We shouldn't have
Like
to
Montu's going to third
backtrack.
action plow for the most part. Doesn't have the actions to really block plows. Doe doesn't really need plow. He just needs to keep sowing his crops. Sow is just better than plow for him. Um, Mike is definitely the only one who is looking to plow, but he does get some extra actions back from his plow. So, and there, if plow sow flips in 12, then there's probably just going to be plows for everyone. Yeah, Montu is shocked by the 3 read action, but
Yeah,
he just don't see any.
that did wreck him,
Like
as he said.
I think it's a bad read because there's 6 and 5 play on the board, and Doe honestly doesn't have much pressure on like he. The only other thing I could see him taking was wood, and I do think taking 4 wood over 3 read is very pretty reasonable. So maybe Montu expected him to do that, but
Yeah, I
like
mean, when his food is this soft, he needs to just build, and he's got a plan for the rest of his farm.
yeah.
Um, wonder, did
Also,
you?
it's a good read that there's a lot of animals now injected into the game with this animal welfare. So even late fencing might be able to grab some animals. All right, go ahead. What were you saying, Derek?
Yeah, I wonder if Montu would have opened with the read if he gets the Reno back, because Mike
I
always
mean,
wants to
for
plow
sure.
probably.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just a bad read of being a little too tunnel visioned in on the reno because I think he A either gets the reno back or B he just renovates in 12 and it's not a big deal. Because then he just goes reno, double build, grow in 12, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's still going to get to do what he wants, but just a little slower than he wanted to.
And then Mike fences, blocking Kristen.
Ooh, okay. Hedge keeper doing
It's
some
a
work
little bit
here.
painful for Kristen here because she doesn't breed her cows now.
Yeah, I thought she would fence second action, but she wanted to get more wood. Um, ooh, Alchemist Lab
Yeah.
kits.
Yeah, it's the 10th play, Alchemist Lab. And the reed and the stone for the Reno. It's a really good move for Doe here.
Yeah, that's nice. I didn't see that one.
So, no, I like what Doe's done this round. He took an aggressive move that was also very good for him. He set up for a double build with when his farm is sort of just auto farming itself, so he doesn't need any help with it. Um, yeah, Trailblazer has just been going to be a fantastic card here. Like his cards are having very high impact.
Mike went. Where did Mike go with his guess? Oh, he hasn't taken the guess action
Yeah, I guess he takes a board here and just gets some breeding. Better
yet. Yeah,
than
most likely.
not taking a board. Yeah, I think Kristen also got a little bit greedy there. She probably should have just spent second action.
Yeah, because you're gonna miss this breed, but I guess she'll get it all
It's
sorted.
painful to miss the cow breeding for sure. Like,
Well, and now she has to contend with Doe and Montu, who want to fence at some point in the next 3 rounds. So
also, Mike still wants to fence again.
yeah, yeah, Mike still.
She should just open first action fence here. If plow is blocked. If plow is open, she probably has to consider plowing.
Yeah, unless she has some kind of. I guess she didn't have Ox Team, or surely she would have fenced second action.
Yeah. I mean, she had Ox Team. She could have fenced and built. You still couldn't play Ox Team, though, because it only comes at the end of the harvest. Oh, he might just
Oh,
go
sure.
pottery here. Okay. Hmm. No. Yeah, I think that misread by Montage is going to end up being very painful for him. I'm not sure how he recovers from this because getting that read is now very hellish for him. He needed that 3 read action so badly. I'm
Yeah,
guessing
that.
what he might have been getting greedy and wanted a 4 read action, but that just seemed unreasonable on this board.
Yeah,
It is Plowso as well. So Kristen's the fact that she's on 4 rooms helps here because she doesn't get the grow here. Monto doesn't get to grow here either. So
well, dope. We thought he was kind of out because he needed to grow to be early, but he's like other people's games are showing their holes, so he
I
looks
mean,
fine.
the Gardner single handedly turned around Doe's game. Doe's problem wasn't like when you're to park early. Yes, it can be a bit of a problem because you lose actions, but the real big problem is when you food starve. And a card that's providing you 8 food per harvest with the setup that he has is just insane here.
Yeah,
It was very well thought out plan, and he just about managed to execute it. That just means you win. And I will say he's pretty convincingly in the lead here at this point. It's not at all close right now.
huh. Yeah,
Like
Kristen would have to have some
Unless Kristen has
guardrails
a
over
plow
here.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
So Kristen has a plow out, but also just look at the number of points on their farm. Joe
What?
already has veggies whenever he wants. Basically, he's going to max grain probably, or at least get 2 points on grain. Like 2 to 3 points on grain. 2 points are guaranteed. He's just going to sow this round. He has a stone kitchen, well, and cooking. The chicken coop providing 8 points to Kristen's 1 point. And he's just going to double grow now comfortably. Like the other thing the 3 read did, it meant Montu couldn't build easily, and so Doe now just gets to grow twice in a row, and so Montu's like grow plants are basically dead.
Dang. Yeah,
That
that.
3 read action was a huge swing,
Yeah,
like,
that wrecked Monty.
and also made Doe's like sort of comfortably grow without having to worry about when grow flips plan, which is a big deal. Like being the person who can grow in rounds 12, 13, 14 when grow does flip in 12 is often game. So,
Does Mike go
yeah.
for? No, Mike has to take the plow. I thought he'd grab the board, but
Well, might not get grown 13 because Mike might just about sneak his Master Tanner in. Mike might be able to sneak his Master Tanner in here. um,
yeah, because it's. Is it 4 or
does
now?
Donut, yeah, it's more cow. Does Donut realize that Mike can do it? And Mike doesn't want to eat his 2 cows, but like it might be worth it. You might have to do that here.
Yeah,
It's very painful though. Like
Doe went with a
I don't know, Mike.
sow. So yeah, huh?
I'm not convinced Mike can afford to do it. It like
Yeah,
kills a lot of value for him.
Montu's skipping the free plow this round or the unblockable plow to get crops. Makes sense at this point.
Does it? Like that Plauso was a very weird action to me.
Oh yeah, the plow so was weird. Sure, yeah, because he didn't have crops. Yeah, when you have unblockable plow as action four, that didn't make a lot of sense.
But I mean, to be fair, Montu got 3 wood after. No one took it, which is sort of the main under move. And what else is he gonna
Yeah,
do?
and it could be, he might be jockeying for position here, trying to stay in the hunt to make the top four. Because Mike, like, that would have been really good for Mike to get the Plauso there, and he might be thinking about
All
that.
yeah,
Keeping
that is
it
true. But
-1.
I think pretty much everyone has Montu beat now that he doesn't have to read to build his rooms. He's just dead.
Yeah. Will he even get them in round 14, even though he can't grow into them?
Uh,
Maybe.
Not sure. Mike has to strongly consider just growing here, and I really think he probably just should to slow down Doe. Like he needs this action. He needs Doe not, to not have this action. It costs him 2 cows and a boar. He does get like food from them. He doesn't just throw them away. Um,
Yeah. Does he
I
get
think
it?
the
He's doing it.
yeah he does. Good move.
Yeah.
I will say that I think the pottery move was a pile of nonsense in this regard. He should just taken the boar and got them breeding. Like this would have been a lot easier if he had 3 boar and 2 cows instead.
Right. I guess he might will the boar. Maybe. Maybe. Uh.
Actually, reasonable likelihood. Kristen probably needs to fence him to build here.
Right. Right.
So he might wield the boar, in which case he's okay. I think Doe just forgot about the Master Tanner
Yeah.
because there's no reason for him to take so big over growing there. Like very
Yep.
unlikely Mike
Anyone
sows.
else was right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
he's
he forgot.
he's just now realizing.
Yeah, in a non-tournament game, you would probably have told Doe that like you can grow,
Yeah, but
but
I mean, even if he knew it, there's a chance that Mike doesn't do it because it was kind of painful for Mike.
yeah,
But
yeah.
this,
The thing is, the fact that it's not automatic is a reason to not say anything. Like I don't know if you can just tell your opponent that I might do this because it's also
right,
yeah, it is painful for Mike and it's not guaranteed. That said, Doe's game is still fine.
yeah, it's just
He's
not
fencing
as much
where
of a
he's got
runaway.
well
Yeah.
sorted. He doesn't really need the actions. It would help him
Oh,
because I
he
think he would
blocks
get more.
Kristen on the fence too, though. That's oh, but I
Yeah.
guess she just has to fence next round. She might have to SP here. Yep, here goes the end of. Okay.
Oh, there's the plow. That's
Yep.
nice. That's nice.
Yep.
That's a huge one. This is one of the best plows in the
S-
game. It's free wood for two extra plows, but it also lets you distribute the wood as you want,
And
which
she
means
can
you can
put it
often
on
play
the.
it early and then plow late.
Yeah, I mean, she'll put it on the family grow that she might. Well, she'll go there, but she might be the first to go there. I guess.
Yeah,
Assuming
she's
she
not going
can.
to be the first person to get that action, so that won't work. That said, she should almost certainly be taking a crop here, so she can open plow. So
Yeah. I'm thinking though, if she plows sows, she has to fence second action.
I think she has to risk it.
Yeah. Fence
She
second
does have Reno
action.
fence open to her, which Reno fence might just be open to her. Really, there's 3 stone on the board, so maybe not.
Surely Montu wouldn't fence seven. But Mike might fence. No, probably not. Mike would take the grow of Montu grows. We'll see how it plays out. But
Onto is almost certainly growing here, I think. So I don't think that's a huge. He might take forward, but I think he kind of has to grow here now. Like if he has any shot of doing anything in this game, he kind of has to grow. Monte's feeding is also just screwed up, right? The 3 read meant that he also has no read to grow to eat
yeah, he
anymore.
didn't. He can't eat the read off the for the BMW.
Yeah, I mean, like that move just killed him. I think he completely misread how important 3 read was and how much it accelerates Doe's game to just be able to double build there. So, but this is huge for Kristen. She now has 12 board, which is sort of enough to do what she needs to do. It's a little bit
Yep.
short, like, but it's pretty close.
She
She can
assuming
fetch
she got one
13.
in the
She can fetch
harvest.
13.
Oh no, she didn't get one because Aramite's turned off.
Yeah, but she can fence. No, she got one in the harvest, but last round wasn't harvest. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So Mike, is Mike going
she
to
can already
start?
fence 9 and build 1 stable, which is sort of good enough, really. Doesn't need
Mike
to do
takes
anything
the
more.
SP for the Plauso next round, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And play deposit is good in case 7 play like it sets up his like pottery stuff. It gives him an action next round. That is pretty strong. Yeah, poor Montu. I mean, like sometimes you misread these things, and it's just very unfortunate. It
Yeah.
happens, like even to good players. It's nothing difficult to recover from these positions sometimes, and I'm sure he's a little bit tilted from that fact. Yeah, what are you going to do, right? Your whole game plan is built around doing this thing, and then it just goes. There's no recovery.
Yeah.
And Doe picking up four cheap, that's a pretty sweet action.
Yeah, that's really nice for him. It's a good consolation for not getting to grow last round. But Kristen has to fence
Yeah.
here because Mike will almost guaranteed fence 4 for 1 wood after this if he,
Yeah,
if
I
she
mean,
doesn't
there's
grow.
no really reason for Kristen to not fence. Like, she should just fence nine. She should fence nine and then either take wood and build stables or just build one stable and do any random action.
Yeah.
Probably the random action might actually have to be Reno if Mike because Mike is going to take clay. Doe likely gets four stone here. I don't think anyone else wants the four stone, so it's possible Mike takes four stone. I guess goes clay and then Reno so that he can double Reno, but that seems like a lot of actions that he
Sure.
might not be able to
Yeah.
do.
And there's the fence from Kristen. So
I would say Mike taking four stone here is interesting because it denies Doe the ability to run out of stone. I don't think Doe ever gets a stone if Mike takes four stone here. And Mike can easily renovate this round and then set up for reno fences next round since Kristen's already fenced, or just renovate major is probably also fine for him. I like four stone for Mike here. I
and
wonder if he will do it.
I mean Montu's in trouble a little bit. He has to watch out for getting fence block next round because he can't Reno fence. He has to do it the hard way, and if Mike doesn't take play, that's a risk.
Mike's definitely taking play. He's played a clay deposit. Doesn't have to worry about that. The problem is Kristen could reno fence next round, right?
Yeah. Yep. She could.
Montu's also hungry. I mean, Montu's coming last year. There's unfortunately no way around it. His entire game got rocked by that. So at this point, I don't think anything he does matters.
Yeah.
I wonder if Mike will take four stone here. I think he should very strongly consider this move because he needs to deny Doe points, and denying Doe Reno is one of the best ways to deny him points here.
He goes for the plow. They'll probably snaps the stone up and then grows here.
I don't like that flower actually. It's unnecessary.
Although, yeah, because Doe can get guarantee Reno next
Like
round
Mike could
and
also just renovate stone. Mike could just reno stone oven also, right? He didn't even have to take the second reno action. That four stone was just a really good move there. That I think was a miss.
no one can grow. No, doesn't look like it this time. Well, this,
Yeah. Well, Doe gets the action that he needed. That's good enough for him. All right, Kristen has to grow without room. That's true.
yeah.
But I don't know if Kristen can afford it. She should just grow last round in the last round now because Kristen has to renovate. Oh, that's a big card. That's 4 points here.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect stables too. I mean,
So she does skip the grow
Kristen
here,
like
but
it's correct, right? Kristen, what actions does Kristen need?
yeah,
There's really nothing here.
but it does. So she
Smuggler.
might open
Oof.
with fence though, honestly.
No, no, she's stabling here. She's not gonna have any wood left.
Oh, true, true, true. Okay, so Montu will get the fencing off.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious to see how this endgame scores look. I think Mike had a interesting shot there. He grabs a
Blocks the
stone.
stone. Yeah. See if it's close enough to.
I mean, it's a straight up like 3 point action, I think, for Mike, and it blocks 5 points from Doe.
I mean, the plow was two
Now he could have
points
built
for
well,
him,
so it would
but
have been a 4 point action for Mike.
yeah,
Although the village well, yeah, I personally I think that was a miss.
the
We'll see.
plow was 2 plus points for him, assuming he opens plow so here.
The
But
plow is a solid 3 points. I agree that it's a good move, but the differential with Doe is not quite as large.
yeah,
That's and I think the stone was at least 3 points as well. So
I mean, it may. I don't know. He probably has isn't thinking about it this way, but I mean, it may come down to like Doe's beating him anyway, and he's going for second in this.
I
And
don't
that's
think Doe is that far ahead of Mike though. Mike's game has had a pretty decent turnaround when he flipped Grow over Doe.
yeah. Let's take a quick look. Montu's at 16, like
Like I think if
29.
Doe goes last round, Mike can't really beat him. But just look at the scores. Like Mike is very much in this.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like swing a two action swing is a pretty big deal, right? Like it's usually at least 4 points in these type of late row games. I'm not convinced Doe actually has 2 point actions the whole way, but
the trick
he,
is, can he get? He might just grab the boar first action, honestly,
yeah, the cows. What do you mean? He's gonna get the
or
cows.
cows. Yeah,
Well, the cows are also the biggest differential over Mike, right? Like,
Yeah. And does Mike, his forest farmers used up?
yeah. So the really cool thing that Doe can do actually is, well, presumably Montu is going to build the well. But if Montu doesn't build the well, he could take one wood, two stone, and then go run a well. Because I think Mike is probably going to go for reno fences because it's a very strong option for him. Um, but I'm not sure Doe can even afford to think about the well right now because Montu probably just snaps it up.
Yeah, at this point,
Yeah, I mean, this it's just nothing better for Montu to do, right? He's never building the rooms.
yeah, jeez. Wait a minute. Oh, I missed the village well. When did that happen? On the last grow? The,
On the grow, yeah. Yeah,
oh,
that's over the well back. So,
interesting. So
yeah, Mike
Mike,
gets a huge plus here.
yeah,
And there's 6 points, I think. Mike's gonna have a very pretty farm. Very nice looking farm.
yeah. I was trying to figure out if it was worth taking one cow instead of the clay deposit move as his last action last round to block dough, but I don't
It
think
doesn't
it
really
makes
block
sense.
like two boar is the same move as two cows, and presumably the doe is plowing here.
Surely not.
That's weird. There's some reason to have five plows. I
Uh,
mean, the one issue for Doe is he can't like taking the boar and the cow is not quite as, but like each of them is at least a 2 point move. They're both better than plowing.
yeah, I mean, plows also 2 points, I guess, but
But like the other things could be more. They give him some
yeah,
food which he doesn't really
switch with
need. Yeah,
cattle,
with
switch with
cattle.
eyes. Yeah,
The thing is that like cow especially, none of these are guaranteed to come back. They're very likely come back actually the animals. So he probably gets a pretty good round here, getting more like two 2 point actions, one 3 point action and a grow maybe.
well, Kristen's getting two there. Yeah, makes sense.
It would be awesome for Kristen to have a constable hidden here. No one else would be huge, but it seems unlikely she has constable here. Her feeding is kind of iffy this round too because she only has a fireplace.
So there's two 6 foot spots. So Montu's getting that. Of course, Mike's going for the Reno fence. Makes sense.
Yeah. Doe can just pick up two board here.
And he's got a last action grow and whatever and a Reno. So that's his round for
Yep.
Reno
Good round for him.
grow. Yeah, it's really solid.
2 point, 2 point, 5 point, 3 point, maybe even more if he has improvements to play. Yeah, I mean, risking for the well would be nice if Montu didn't like. I mean, it wouldn't even be a risk, right? If Montu didn't have three stone, then you just instantly like grab one wood, two stone there, and that's your well.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal for him, but he obviously can't do that.
Kristen's remaining actions. She's got to get a grain probably. Maybe she has an ox for some points. There's a few different ox she could have.
She has a grow left,
Yep, she has a grow for sure.
and she just is hungry because it's just fireplace, right? Genuinely,
Yeah,
like a hearth is quite a lot of food here for her. But
but that could block Montu's uh
well, yeah,
well, yeah. Wow, okay.
yeah. I mean, interestingly, if Kristen builds the hearth here, Doe should just sacrifice grow and go for the well unless he has improvements in play in his hand to play. If he has an improvement, then it's not worth it. But
Doe's trying to figure this out. He switched to the 6 wood action, then to the 2 stone action.
this would
But
make no sense unless he has like a wood miner. Like,
yeah, I don't see anything better than Boar, which is a 2 point
no,
move.
he's going for it. So he also might be looking at the scores and realizing that like the board line is not like I didn't remember the scores when you looked at them. So it might just not be enough points for him to win over Kristen or Mike. So he might be calculating that and thinking I have to go for the
Sure.
well and take the risk that he doesn't build it.
Mike's at 41. He's at 37.
He is
So
he is
five
behind.
Reno.
I mean,
Yeah,
the thing is he has like a
he's
grow and a reno coming. Mike only has 2 point actions here, so
huh.
Early family grow. Is Kristen just out of moves? Huh.
Yeah, I don't see why that would.
Good,
She
good, good.
needs.
Like she needed to not block Hearth here. She needs Do to knock at the well. Um, I think that was an unnecessary risk for Do to take probably because he doesn't really need to win this game in order to qualify. I think
Sure.
he
Yeah.
just needs to like coming second is probably enough here. So
I guess
it
Kristen's
is weird. I don't
jockeying
really
with
like
Mike. Maybe that's why might she might have grown there and
Joe.
double
How do you
takes
think
the
the map's
green.
gonna build rooms, man? Like you
What's
took
that?
his read. Don't be rude.
What?
Don't saying no rooms, but just a chat. Yeah, like don't kill his room plan and then says no rooms. That's like unintentional, but probably like pretty rude.
Well, yeah, he knew Mike wasn't or Monty wasn't building rooms. For, I mean, probably for a while.
I mean, I thought the well was pretty obvious, and I thought he was taking the stone with the hope that Kristen has to build the hearth because otherwise, like, it's a pretty silly risk to take.
Uh huh.
Because you do have just a 2 point action in the board available to you.
So Mike's just yeah, he's just gonna hit clay supports one more time most likely, and
Yeah,
that's his game.
yeah, that's
So
his game. He's gonna breed points here, I think. He needs to eat 8, so he's going to only
yeah,
breed 1 point rather than 2, but that's fine.
so he'll get 40. He's at 43. He'll have 5 bonus. Puts him
I
at
don't know what Bill was
48.
arguing about. I thought the well was pretty straightforward there.
Yeah, well, only 2 point. Oh no!
No, that's not true. Boar is. Oh, that's true.
What about Reno and Grow? He doesn't.
Yeah, that's what is he saying? Like I don't understand. Astronaut needs to not give
I
advice.
think he
Like come
forgot
on.
that he can grow, but Astaroth.
No, okay, that's like really not okay. Like you can't be providing advice to people in a tournament game. He was about to make a huge mistake. How is fencing good for him? He has 2 actions for more points.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe he still doesn't seem like he knows that he can grow.
He must realize. Like I don't know.
Yeah, Kristen did will the grain, so that's fair. And she blocked Mike from the grow. So how close is she in this thing? I wonder. She's at 42 plus the half timber, 46, and she
Her problem
needs
is
one more.
food. She has
Yeah,
no food.
she needs a food action. Okay, Montu, can he build rooms for 2 stone? Yeah, he'll build 1 stone room, I guess. No, that can be better than
No,
fencing.
he's fencing. He took the read for feeding. He needs 8 food. That's his only way to
I
get
see.
8 food.
Yeah.
It was a 4 food 1 point move basically. Yeah, he's not building rooms.
What did we say Mike's on? Oh, clay deposits for 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I also think this BMW. If your plan is to actually build stone rooms, BMW doesn't really work. Like it was nice with Reed Pond, but that was when I wasn't sure if he was going to try to build and set up
Oh,
this like big stone.
last random mock. What do we got? And he got golden rose food from it. Grump.
Grump.
Does it?
That
Did
seems
he get
wrong.
that?
Don't play that. Why are you playing that, Mike? Over clay deposit? What are you doing?
That's 2 points, just like clay deposit, right? But it gives him food too. I think
But it
it's the
doesn't
same, but
work.
he get.
No, because Doe can choose not to grow. I guess Doe doesn't have another move. Yeah, maybe Doe just doesn't have another move that's better. Like grow is still 1 point, but like Doe hasn't grown yet.
I honestly think Doe doesn't remember that he can.
Yeah, see, he can take 6 wood now, which is just better than grow now.
Oh, now that he built the joinery, yeah.
Well, this might still be 1 point worse than Doe. No, it's not. Like, yeah, this is just wrong. You just play clay deposit there. You're at 2 points. Doe grows is at 3 points.
It
Now
does mean,
instead, Doe is at 4 points, and you're at 2 points.
yeah, but it
But I
does
guess
mean
he
Mike
gets
can breed 2 points worth.
yeah, so it breaks out to be about even, I guess.
Yeah,
Everyone gets some points except Kristen. Like this is just unfortunate for Kristen, I guess. He does gain points over Kristen, which might be significant here. So maybe I'm underestimating this because, but it's still the same amount of points as Clay Deposit. No, Clay Deposit was just better. Like
oh, Kristen has 2 boar for another point here now, I guess.
she is food anyways, so probably just
Or
take the
yeah,
board for food. But yeah, I mean the Grump was just like It's just worse than clay deposit. There's just no way that was better. I guess he didn't know that. Maybe he thought Doe might have an improvement. Yeah, okay, sure. And this does give him points over Kristen, so fine.
Yeah, seems makes sense.
50. 50 might be enough here. How much
50,
does Doe
that's
have?
Mike.
Yeah,
Doe is at
46 plus.
46.
Well, at most 48. So yeah, Doe's definitely losing to Mike.
Wow.
Okay, in that case, it's probably correct because I think he gained a point over Kristen.
Please don't show this on YouTube.
Poor Montu. I mean, it's not really like entirely his fault. He missed one move and got rocked. And I mean, yes, it's partially his fault because he missed one move, but that can happen. I mean, it's Agricola. It absolutely can happen.
Yeah. Kristen's going to be a little behind those two. I think she's going to finish with 40, 47, maybe 48. Doe got to 48.
Doe beats Kristen because of Mike. That's unfortunate. Although Kristen might
Yeah.
have feeding issues and like so she might be
Looks like
losing a
she
couple
ate
points
a
here.
cow, so she will lose one potential point there.
No, no, she hasn't fed yet.
Oh,
This is
she's
her
doing
hard thing.
different too.
Yeah, I think she'd be at 46, so she would have potentially tied.
Honestly, Doe's right. The Tanner Grow really got him. If Mike edged him
Absolutely,
out here, and that was
absolutely.
probably the reason.
It was at least 4 points, I think. Well, probably at exactly 4 points is my guess because Mike just had another 2 point move, right? Like he just kept getting 2 point moves. Um, yeah, so Mike gave Joe, I think, 1 point. So I guess it didn't actually affect standings at all. Mike would have won by like the same score over Doe, and Doe would have won by one over Kristen, I believe, if he hadn't played Grump.
Yeah, actually, let me
Because Mike had
plug
3 points.
those in, and we'll see how that updates it. So Mike got the 12.5. Doe got the 7.5.
Well, Mike leapfrogs Doe. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so all he has to do is finish ahead of him in the final, assuming Mike's in the final, and Montu
Yeah.
got the
Well, he
1.5.
has to be now, right? Basically, I don't think it's possible for him not to be.
Is there?
It's,
Could
it's
there be? I
no, it's
guess
mathematically impossible.
is that right?
Because you would need all four of the next people to be higher than him, which is not possible. Micah can't even get that many points,
Oh,
right?
Mike, yeah. Well, what about Doe? Yeah, Doe's in
Doe
final
is also,
also.
Doe is also guaranteed because so think about it this way: so you have to have Kimball, William, and Fofo being ahead of him because Micah can't get there, but Fofo
Yeah.
also can't get there. So it's just Kimball and William.
So
And
that's two
so it's
spots.
pretty
Yeah.
much guaranteed that the top two from this are in the game. Montu is guaranteed out. I think actually think it's pretty much decided. Whoever is the top two of the next game after the next game from their group will end up like in not first and second. Sorry, whoever between those four players ends up as the like first and second relatively
Right.
after the next game. But I think
Yeah.
it's like almost guaranteed. Like if Fofo wins, then she makes it, I think, because 3.75 is not enough to cover the 12.5 gap over anyone. But if Fofo doesn't win, I think it's just always Andy and Kimball and WSC Frank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
That sounds
basically
good.
what happened. I
That's
think
fun.
Micah is
I'm glad
unfortunate.
it's gonna. It's gonna be interesting coming down. There have
It
been
looks
some
impossible for Micah, by the way. Not possible anymore.
not impossible. You say?
It's just impossible for Micah. And actually, we should have probably looked at this carefully and noticed that it was probably more or less impossible for Kristen as well. Like there was a small outside chance even if she won, but it like the fact that there's a second game going on makes it impossible because she can't actually influence their scores. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Right. So there'll be some number of people that pass her from just that. But yeah,
yeah. Because even third
interesting.
place is too high for Kimball and WSC Frank. So my prediction is probably I mean the odds would be Kimball and WSC Frank because Fofo has to win, whereas the other two can afford to just come second.
So if it gets late enough that they can make some moves that guarantee that they can have a little wiggle room.
Yeah, when you know that you can play for second, it definitely changes things. Like actually, if both Kimball and William just decide to like make sure Fofo doesn't win, can't do anything about it. I don't think they
Yeah.
will collude, just here, but like it is the downside of playing semifinals not simultaneously. That's why most like you would want to do that, but obviously scheduling means it's difficult.
Right.
You can't just guarantee.
Yeah. I'm trying to
But it was a
remember.
very interesting game. Like, I think there were a lot of ups and downs there.
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah.
made quite a few players, which is
We
fascinating.
we
I really
thought
love
Doe
those
had
games.
it at some point or for a good little portion of the mid
He did.
game, he thought Joe
He
was
did
going to
have
win.
it. He just missed the grow, and that's what that does.
Yeah,
He definitely had it. He wouldn't have lost if he just grew.
I mean, and Mike had another
Although
chance to shut him out with a stone too, but didn't take that block move. So
I think that was definitely an error. Like if you look back at what actually happened, yes, Mike got Reno fence, which is great for him. But I think he could have just sacrificed some plow so points and just gone for like stone into either Reno stone oven or double Reno, which I think was also doable. The thing is, there's always the danger that Kristen might win then if he is slightly inefficient. But honestly, I don't think he was going to lose that much efficiency there. So
yeah, I I think I mean Monty's right.
does he
The
can play on these
Doe's
still,
move
right?
definitely rocked him, but I do think that was probably the winning move for Doe to build once he had the food covered, like build two
Oh no,
row
absolutely.
coaster
Like
farm is
100%.
done. Yeah,
Yeah, 100% correct for Doe to take the read and build there. And honestly, it's just a miss by Montu that he didn't realize that. Like, I mean, Montu saying that I don't think that was the winning line was is just wrong. Like, just if he notices Master Tanner, he wins. It is the winning line because he would have won, but um,
yeah,
he he messed up there. Like, that was a pretty big blunder by Doe as well. So that happens too.
mhm.
Um, cool game to watch. Like,
Yeah. It was a
I, I
fun, interesting one.
I really like Doe's game plan. Like it was very good. And honestly, in early grow, he absolutely crushes here because I think he has enough to even overcome Montu's probably pretty crazy ceiling if grow flips early because
Yeah,
Montu gets to just do this stuff. But just look at those hand. Like it has so many points if he just gets to grow early.
yeah. Just three like mid to high level ox. Two power and up ox, but nothing. I mean, both the Europeans not even a four. I don't think
My
so.
guess is if grow flips early, he gets to rebuild the well also. And the big deal is that he has food and Montu doesn't.
Yeah,
That would have been the difference. And the other two players don't have amazing early grow hands. Like Mike's is okay. He has Hedgekeeper. He has like clay deposit, or he was far enough behind in the growth queue that I think he would be playing catch up.
I mean, I was
I don't
thinking
know.
Mike
It was
didn't get
interesting.
like the ideal order for his perp student ox, but they worked out all right for him. I mean, it wasn't terrible, and they were all decent when they came down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would have wanted Grump earlier.
Yeah,
Grump coming out so late, not ideal for him. Yeah, like getting forward from that would have been very, very powerful for his game. Um, like imagine if that comes off bookmark, he can like put so much pressure on the game. Or if he just gets it even earlier and gets to build first room, which is also within like the realm of opportunity. Kristen has a fun setup too. I like this like animal welfareist head of family thing.
yeah,
Her not playing that round actually probably hurt her too way more because that breeding was a lot of food for her also.
yeah.
Like
She could have got 2 or 3 more points in animal breeds if she got that fence in, and it probably would have hurt Mike too.
yeah,
But
yeah, probably. I agree. I think there would have been a pretty big difference there. So I think
okay,
people didn't play the brightest stick, but it was, they played pretty well. Like overall. So
yeah. I mean, we're seeing. Yeah, it's much easier to see all the lines when you're not in the middle of it. But
I agree. Yeah, like sometimes you miss something, and like one downside of play Agricola is the cards aren't super visible. So if you just don't remember that the card is there, like sometimes you just don't notice it, right? Like they'll just forgot Master Tanner was on the table. I don't think he forgot what Master Tanner does. He just didn't see it.
right, right.
Yeah. Looking forward to the next game. It should be interesting.
Yeah,
When is the next
yeah.
game?
Thanks for being willing to do it. It's probably going to be a little bit because they're talking. People are traveling on vacation, so we're looking
Okay.
maybe Saturday the 8th is closest thing that they're considering at the
Yeah.
moment.
I
So
mean, if I'm free, I would be happy to do this again. And if not, then I'll see you in the final maybe.
okay, yep, great. Thanks for joining, Sid.
All right. Bye,
Talk to
Derek.
you later.